And I want to say how honored I am to be on this panel very briefly with our brothers and our sister from Haiti. It is a tremendous honor. I can't tell you how touched I am. The peasant movements in Haiti and the MSC in Brazil are a source of inspiration for many, many, many people around the world, this Kenyan woman included. And I feel quite humbled to be here with them. But I also think that what is really important about their presence here is that, for me, this is what solidarity is about. With the MST stepping into the gap to say what our government is doing in Haiti is not the will or in the interest of Brazilian people, and we are going to stand in solidarity with the Haitian people. It's very touching. And I think that it is also telling that Haitian movement said no to Monsanto, but said yes to the MST. And we should all have the courage to make these kinds of important and critical choices every day. Francis said that we have choices to make, and it's important that we make choices, and they made that choice. I have now, I think, 3 minutes, and but I felt, I mean, it really is. I was sitting there tearing up, thinking about this because I think it's important. So what do I say? First, I want to acknowledge ActionAid, represented here by Doug, who just introduced me, and Lauren, because they made it possible for me to come. And I'm grateful for that. I also want to recognize Tim Weiss. Tim, wave your hand back there. Tim has a report that there are copies in the back there that answers or raises very, very critical issues. If you watch the food price program on television, they talked about the need to double food production by 2050 in order to feed the world. And this report by Tim looks at a number of things and says that's really not what we need to do. And of course, it raises also the points out that GMOs and all of that, biotechnology, the answer that is being offered by the other side is not the answer. So I encourage you to get a copy of that. I want to say that I'm working with the Daughters of Mombi Global Resource Center in Kenya. It's a small network, and I can say a lot of things, but I want to just talk about 2 things and then end with one more point, which is that we are a small network of mostly women who, when I went back to Kenya, I had been working on international financial institutions for 10 years, 7 years as director of the 50 Years is Enough network. And I was trying to figure out what was I going to do when I went back after 20 years living in the US. What was I going to do? How was I going to contribute? And Daughters of Mombi is how I chose to contribute. And in the context of the conversation that we are having all this week, I want to point to 2 things that we do with the network. One is these garden bags that we have introduced and train our members to use, because many of the people that we work with have no land at all. Many of them are renters. And so really the only land that they have accessible to them is that little piece of, just next to the place where you rent, there's a little bit of space, and we say you can have flowers or you could have vegetables. They all look nice, but with the vegetables, at least you'll have some food. And so the garden bags are one thing that we do. I think of it almost as a joke when I say that I come from a densely populated rural area, which doesn't make sense in the context of Iowa, but it really is. That's where I grew up, and that's where my mom still lives and farms on 4 acres of land, which is considered huge in terms of where I come from. 4 acres, just remember that figure. The second program that we work with our members on, we call it the Indigenous and Traditional Seeds Project, which is as we began to have conversations about food security and food sovereignty with our members, one of the things they were saying was that they don't know how to grow sweet potatoes or cassava or arrowroot. And so we do this day-long training whereby the members who sign up are able to be trained on how do you grow and how do you farm on whatever little piece of land that you have, sweet potatoes and cassava and bananas and other things that are actually healthy. They survive when the rains fail or are diminished. They survive better. So the Indigenous and Traditional Seeds Project, and it has become a way in which both to preserve biodiversity, but also to begin to have the conversation about what people know about farming, because as much as people were saying we don't know how to grow these things, they know a lot, and as time went by, they shared a lot. So I want to end by saying this. I want to first thank Francis for your wonderful address, but also for ending talking about Wangari Maathai, the late Professor Wangari Maathai. She and my mother were best friends. If you've read the story of Wangari when she was, and if you've seen the film about her life, my mother is in there, she's in the book, when Wangari was arrested, and many of her other professor and other prominent friends were too scared to share the next hospital bed, which was necessary in order to guarantee her safety. My mother was in that next bed with her for 11 days. So thank you. So I knew Wangari from when I was a little girl until her death in 2011. And it was a huge privilege. I want to digress a little bit and say when Thurgood Marshall died, and I was reading the story of Thurgood Marshall, including that he had helped write Kenya's first constitution, I thought, what a loss. I did not know him, and I did not know this about him until he died. But all the wonderful things that were said about Wangari Maathai, I knew of them. I knew of the struggles. I agonized and was with her kids and shared all the pain that they were going through when she was under attack. And what I want to do is end with the story of the hummingbird, which she told. I don't know if you know about the story of the hummingbird. Do you know the story about the hummingbird? Do you want me to tell you the story? Okay, I will tell. They want me to tell. I know I'm out of time. So I'm standing between you and your lunch, but it's a very short and quick story. And the story of the hummingbird is one that she, of course, told far better than I ever could, which was that the forest was on fire. And all the animals were frantic, trying to run away, trying to figure out what to do. Many of them just watching in fear and paralyzed and unable to do anything. But there was this little hummingbird that was going to the river, taking a drop of water and going to drop it on the fire. Back and forth as quickly as she could go, and it was a she, I'm sure, as quickly as she could, she went back and forth. And there were all these other animals, including the elephant. Imagine if the elephant had used its trunk to get water and to throw it on the fire, probably would have made a bigger dent. And they were saying to the hummingbird, you're too little, you can't make any difference. I mean, this drop of water in this raging fire, I mean, what do you think you're doing? And the hummingbird answered, I'm doing the best that I can. I am doing the best that I can. Little as she was doing the best that she could. And that, I believe, is what we are all called to do the best that we can, and perhaps try to even do more than the best that we can to change the world, to make sure that no child goes to bed hungry, to make sure that the final word is not with corporate agriculture, with Monsanto, with Syngenta and all the others, but that it is with the organic farmers, it is with the women farmers of Africa, it is with the women farmers of Haiti, Brazil, Iowa, and the world over. Thank you.